It's never easy to find out that your child has a health condition. Life inevitably changes, you worry more, and you can even end up blaming yourself and feeling guilty. So what do you do when your child is struggling? What's the best way to help whilst also looking after your own well-being? I'm your host Chrissy B, and we'll be exploring this and lots more on today's Chrissy B Show, the UK's only programme dedicated to mental health and well-being. My real-life story, Soli Lazarus, knows all too well the challenges that come when your child is diagnosed with a particular condition. Her son has ADHD, so she has first-hand experience of living with the unpredictability and, as she describes, the chaos. But she'll be telling us how she manages and what she's doing to help others today. Also on the programme today, we have our psychologist Dr Audrey Tang talking about the best thing you can do as a parent to help a child with a condition. Our news correspondent Helena Chard brings us positive news in this week's A Helping of Happy. We also take a look at our visit to La Cucina Caldesi Italian restaurant and cookery school, where the founders Giancarlo and Katie show us around their restaurant and also teach us how to make a delicious low-carb, gluten-free pizza. Dr. Opix will be answering your medical questions in this week's Doctor's Answers. Then we have Lily Suter answering your nutritional questions. And finally, Sally Wolford will be showing us some inexpensive storage solutions. So let's go to our first guest, Soli Lazarus. Welcome to the show, Soli.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to have you on. Now, we have been on before, some time back, but there's been quite a lot of progress since she came on, which is really nice.
Yes, there has been lots of progress.
But first of all, should we talk about, for the benefit of the viewers that didn't meet you before, didn't see you before, because we've obviously got new viewers all the time. Can you tell us, first of all, about your son? So you discovered that he had ADHD.
Yes, so my lovely, gorgeous, funny son has, he is now nearly 31. And when he was 8, he was diagnosed with, so it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so ADHD. But so that was when he was 8. But when he was a baby, when he was a toddler, we knew that there was something a little bit quirky, a little bit special, a little bit different. And yeah, so we eventually, we went to different doctors, different places, different therapies, and eventually we found a great guy. And yeah, he diagnosed ADHD, and that was the moment really our lives changed, because it gave answers to all these questions that we had.
What kind of questions did you have? And can you explain what you mean by questions?
So, because he was our first, I didn't really sort of appreciate how it was that would take him somewhere and he would just run around, or he wouldn't keep still, or we couldn't take him anywhere that was quiet because he would explode, or say something inappropriate, or be very impulsive. Every single club that he tried to join, we were asked for him to leave. I was constantly called in at school because there was constantly issues with other children, or him not focusing or concentrating, and it was, if only he could try harder, and if only he could just put all his energy into writing, and and for a long time, because we didn't really understand it, we were, yes, why are you not concentrating? Why, what, just sit, why can't you do that? And then...
so when you realise afterwards, like, oh
yeah,
no,
I know, which is now, I wish I know then what I know now, because now I'm telling families exactly what I wish I knew, because, we now know ADHD is a neurological condition. It's not to do with naughty behaviour. It's not to do with children not listening or being deliberately difficult. It's a way the brain is working, the neurons aren't firing, and the instructions are just not reaching the part of the brain to give them those instructions. So yeah, our life when my son was little was just me chasing him around all the time, and me being very stressed, and just and just that feeling as a parent, like, what am I doing wrong? You know, why is this not working? Why can't he listen or sit still or remember things? Or why is he always losing things? So that was the point where, it was just, oh, that's why.
Okay, and then obviously things changed a lot after that, didn't they?
Yeah, so once we knew the reason why these things were happening, you know, we could just start to put other things in place and to make allowances to help him. You know, there was no expectation that he was then going to sit for an hour. We would sit for 10 minutes and then go and have a walk, or you know, and have emergency things in our bags to keep him occupied. So
it's about preparation then, right?
Exactly. It's just knowing what that behaviour is going to be. So
Now, sorry, you were a teacher for quite a number of years.
Yeah, for 30 years.
Enjoyed teaching?
Yes. I loved it. I did love it. I did. So it's funny how lives collide, because David then had ADHD, and I then naturally, when I was teaching, understood and got those children who fidget, or, you know, sat up on their knees, or didn't sit still, you know, and I naturally understood those children. So I sort of then meandered into the world of special needs. So my two lives collided, and I did love it. But then in the latter years, my passion for ADHD and really getting teachers to understand that if you just put these things in place, our children can thrive, our children can be amazing. And I just felt, so it was last Easter, so Easter 2018, I was lucky enough to be able to take early retirement. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And I've gone full time, I'm sort of on a mission now, just to bust the stigma of ADHD.
So you started Yellow Sun.
Yellow Sun, which is why I try and infiltrate yellow wherever I go.
You've got the right background behind you as well.
Fabulous, that's very well planned. So it really is just, I'm trying to get into schools. I'm trying to, I run support groups. I'm actually putting on a wonderful retreat in June 2019, just for mums, actually, because they're on their knees, they're stressed, and they just deserve some time and some reassurance and some support.
Like I said, because sometimes parents blame themselves for some reason. They just need to see that
exactly.
It's not bad parenting. Well,
it's the first thing when a parent gets a diagnosis, or a child gets a diagnosis, a parent will go through that sense of, well, it's a bit of a grief, because this is not the life my child is going to have. It's going to be a different life. It's not necessarily a bad life. It's just a different life that we thought our children were going to have. But a lot of my role now is to help and support families, support parents, and just give them these tools and strategies so that their children are not, because there's so much sort of shaming and blaming our kids. And we don't want them to have poor self-esteem and emotional worries, and grow up in adults with anxiety and depression. And, you know, and if we get it right very early on in schools and at home, and just look at our children's successes, then it can just turn everything.
They just need that environment to thrive in. And sometimes, I don't know if schools think it's going to cost so much money to put these things in place, but it's sometimes just simple things, isn't it? That's not like...
And that's my mantra when I go to schools. These things cost nothing. You just do it in a different way. You have a different expectation of the children, and it's like magic. You know, you show a child you like them. You show a child that you respect their opinion and you want to hear their ideas. And it's like magic that they shine then, rather than feeling like, oh, I'm being told off again because I've fidgeted or I'm in the wrong place or I've interrupted or I've been rude, or, you know, punishments don't work, but praise is amazing, as we know.
Soli, thank you so much for coming to talk about this. Congratulations for everything you've achieved. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of more good news soon.
I hope to watch this space.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for asking me.
Okay, everybody, so now it's time to head over to Dr. Audrey Tang for this week's Psychology Matters. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So now it's time to give some advice to parents that have a child with any condition, whether it be physical condition or a mental health condition. What advice would you give, Audrey?
Absolutely.
What can a parent do?
The first thing to do really is to get that diagnosis, because then you get that piece of paper, which means that you understand what's going on, and then you can also look at what you're entitled to get in terms of support for that child. That is hugely important, but unfortunately support varies from county to county. So it does mean when you get the diagnosis, it's often the work has just started at that point. Some counties are wonderful at supporting, others maybe you need to be a little bit more persistent. Collaborate with people, speak to the school, speak to anyone, any group that the child works with or integrates with, because they might have ideas or things that work with that child, and then by replicating that in the home, that can actually be a really comforting thing for the child, because they understand, oh yeah, at Guides I do this, or at Scouts we do that, in school we do this, and actually at home I do this too, and that can be very supportive. Don't be afraid of it, just find out more. Find out also, in terms of the child, their level of understanding of what they have. So in terms of diagnosis, that's where I mean don't be afraid. Speak to the child, get them to understand that it just makes them a little bit different. They have to do things in a different way. It doesn't make them weird or strange or anything like that.
Or inferior.
Exactly. And the more normal we can make it, the more normalized we can make it, the more supportive it is for the child as well. And if that child can then talk to their friends about it and explain why they need to do things in a certain way, so much the better. Something we do need to be very aware of is that life, unfortunately now, is not set up to support diagnoses, in that it's a huge culture of comparison at the moment, social media. It's not the nicest place to be, and that does not help if your child has something like anxiety or depression, even ADHD, flicking through so many different posts, that can be overstimulating as well. Now we have a lot of project work. So parents are finding they're having to move from place to place. That doesn't help a child who is on the autistic spectrum or has Asperger's. That can be quite frightening for the child. So again, that's where collaboration can really help, because if the condition is being managed in a certain way with the school or with the childcare or whoever that child interacts with, then it's really important that we carry it on in the home as well. Other things to remember is that the child themselves should be allowed to be a child. And that's the one thing we sometimes forget, because especially when there's a lot of diagnoses, trips, you're always in the hospital, you're always doing all the things that the medical professionals tell us to do. What about going out to the park? What about playing?
That's so important, just a sense of normality, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's a chance for everyone to do something together as well. And that in itself can be a wonderful thing for the child, so they don't feel like I'm really strange, or
it's not all about the diagnosis, it's about
Exactly. All of this is about empowering that child to work with whatever that condition is. It doesn't matter that people have conditions. That happens, that's part of life. Sadly, it means that child may have to work a little bit harder to manage that particular condition. But if they can own it, if they can understand it, and they can also help their own interaction with it, in other words, if they can tell other people, oh, I like this to happen in this way because, and they have that understanding, that can be so, so helpful as well. So in terms of the condition, don't be afraid of it, but also don't let it rule you. Allow that child to be a child, allow yourselves to be a family, have time for yourselves, have respite care too, because sometimes if the focus is all on that child, if there's other siblings, they might begin to feel a little bit left out too. If the focus is all on the child, it might also be you lose your own identity and start almost seeing yourself as not only mum, but mum of a child with this particular condition. And we've got to remember that if we're happy, then the likelihood is we'll create an environment where that child can be happy too.
Definitely.
So look after yourself as well.
Thank you, Audrey, my darling.
Pleasure.
We'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, everybody, after the break, we go to news correspondent Helena Chard with this week's A Helping of Happy, which brings you positive news. And we'll be featuring an extra special visit to La Cucina Caldesi, which is an Italian restaurant and cookery school, where the founders Giancarlo and Katie also teach us how to make something yummy. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everybody, the UK's only TV show dedicated to your mental health and well-being. Actually, it's the world's as well, isn't it, Helena?
Absolutely. International.
Yeah. So now, since I've already spoken to Helena, we have the lovely Helena Chard on, and she's going to be giving us some positive news in this week's A Helping of Happy.
Thank you. So we're going to begin with Amy, who is a former social worker, and she decided she wants all children to have dolls, their own dolls that they can relate to. And the reason being is that she's worked with loads of children, and she realised that when everyone's got their own dolls that look like them, it makes the children so happy.
Oh, that's interesting.
And she realises that children with disabilities don't have that privilege. So she decided she wanted to change that and change their narrative as well, because obviously if you have a doll that looks like you, it makes you feel happy and included. So she decided just something very small, because obviously she wasn't doing her social work, which is to make dolls just like them. So she's made hundreds and hundreds now, and she's going to continue doing it, which is a really bespoke, fun service.
So in my day, they just had the blonde Barbie.
I know.
And Cindy. I had a Cindy and a Barbie, and I was making them fight for some reason.
Well, you really? Yeah. I know. So, I mean, still, you know, because it's not a big, huge, run of dolls. It's a really special thing, which is lovely.
Okay.
And moving on to Lucy and Yak. So Lucy and Yak are a family-run business, and they started. It's Lucy and Chris. They did a lot of travelling when they were younger, and they used to just make things and sell things on the beach, and that's how they lived. And they realised that people liked their products. And they realised they had a flair for fashion, so they decided they wanted to be able to give back to people, but give people good value. And they travelled around, found a place where they wanted to make their goods, which was India. And now have this thriving business where they make like dungarees, etc. But it sells really well, because obviously they make the cotton themselves and everything. Everything's in-house in India. But the good thing about it is that it's very green and very ethical, and all the employees are paid above the minimum wage.
Oh, that's good to hear.
And they know all their workers, and everyone is a really, really happy thing. And it's really lovely, because it's you make what you want out of the system, and they just decided they wanted a system where everyone wins. So on top of they also give back more than they take out of the business money-wise. And one of the lovely things they've done is it's just 10% of the sales quite recently went towards a charity to help deprived young girls in India. And I'm going to move on to, I'm going to miss some out. I'm going to move on to Sally Phillips. So Sally Phillips is one of our comedy actresses here in the UK, and she's been on Bridget Jones and Miranda and all those top shows. But it was a really lovely article recently, and she gave birth to her son Ollie 12 years ago. And one of the things that she found outrageous in a way, which she's talking about, is the doctor suddenly said, "Oh, sit down, I've got some very bad news for you." And then the nurse burst into tears, and they said, "Sorry to say, but your son is Down syndrome." And she sort of was a bit baffled and shocked and didn't know what to think. As it was, everything turned out really well, and she's now talking about how comes that people want to talk about the negative side. When her son Ollie, in the case in point, is the most chatty people person ever. Really funny, great comedy timing, and really cheers everybody up. So she just wanted to get it out there because, And one very small thing, she broke her foot. She's got other siblings as well. When she was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and when she came back, she was obviously hobbling around. Her other children said, and then just forgot about her. But Ollie came up, gave her a hug, "Love you, Mum. How are you feeling? How's your foot?" So the people skills are really, really high. Wow. So I shall end on that, which I think
is a lovely story.
Yeah. So
thank you very much, my darling, and we'll see you again next time.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, so now let's take a look at our visit to La Cucina Caldesi Italian restaurant and cookery school, where the founders, Giancarlo and Katie, also teach us how to make something yummy.
My name's Katie Caldesi.
My name is Giancarlo Caldesi.
And we have 2 Italian restaurants, one in London, Caldesi in Marylebone, and one in Bray in Berkshire called Caldesi in Campagna.
cooking that we're doing actually is like my mother used to make. It's very hearty, very rustic, and there's real Italian cooking, and we're very proud of what we do.
Philosophy is like his mother's cooking, and it's family recipes that have been handed down from generation to generation, and then we bring them to London.
It's very important actually to really create a kind of food that is really regional and is really authentic from Italy. I've been here 44 years, and in all these years I managed to, especially later with Katie, we managed to really assemble a real true Italian food, and it's important to create this kind of philosophy of food that people like, and we can recreate Italy back into England.
And we've been travelling all over Italy, and we've written 9 books about Italian cooking now, from regions like Sicily to Rome, Venice, Amalfi and Tuscany. So we've got a huge bank of recipes to follow in our restaurant.
What's really been interesting actually all the years I've been in Marylebone, that when people come to the cafe in Marylebone, they always say it's a piece of Italy. It's so interesting, so nice to see, and so very, very heartwarming to feel that people are experiencing a little bit of Italy in London. And that's really, for me, it's volume, speaks volume. It's amazing, to be honest.
So about 15 years ago, we were asked to show someone how to make pasta, which we did on a Sunday when our restaurant was closed. And then more and more people came to us and said, can you show me how to make pasta? Can you show me how to make focaccia? And so we started teaching people at weekends. And then eventually we opened a cookery school just devoted to Italian food and teaching people how to cook everything to do with Italian cooking. And we've been going 14 years.
Well, everyone, we're actually going to go back to Katie and Giancarlo after the break, this time to teach us how to make a delicious low-carb, gluten-free pizza. And also, Dr. Rob Hicks will be answering your medical questions, including this one. Why does yellow pus come out of the pores on my nose? Find out the answer after this. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now it's time to get your medical questions answered with Dr. Rob Hicks. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Chris.
You good?
Better than good.
Better than, that's brilliant. That's because you're going to help our viewers today.
I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is a bit of an unusual one. I haven't had one like this before, but this viewer is asking, why does yellow pus come out of the pores on my nose? I have pretty good skin, but anytime I press my nose, pus easily comes out of my pores.
You're right, we've not had that question before, and I'm guessing that's a little bit distressing for the person. Obviously, one thing that they can do to avoid it is
stop pressing
the nose.
But you know, sometimes you might sort of do that. Can you imagine you're talking to someone, you just do that, and then it's like,
or maybe blowing the nose. Actually,
Yeah,
they're squeezing the nose or wiping the nose, and out comes this discharge from the pores. Couple of things to think about. I mean, this could actually be normal. It could be just a collection of the sebum within the pores on the nose, and that's, it's a normal situation. It could possibly be something like acne, particularly if you've got sort of small red spots on the nose where with white containing basically that contain pus, and that's why you get a white head around with the red surrounding. This sort of thing, it's a good idea to see it. So ask your doctor to look at your nose to see whether there's anything like acne there that needs treatment. In the meantime, what I would suggest that you do is, with regards to washing, don't wash more than twice a day when you're washing your face and your nose. Make sure that you use lukewarm water, so basically it won't cause the pores to clog up. And then, of course, make sure that you remove your makeup before you go to bed. But I would have this checked out, just simply so that if it is an underlying medical condition that needs treatment, you can get it treated and sort the problem out.
Do you think moisturisers could make the problem worse? Because maybe if it's already like...
I think there's
creamy.
there's a degree of trial and error with this sort of problem. So one is changing the washing regime, changing the cleansing regime, changing the moisturising regime. But it is quite normal to get a build-up of this. It depends how much and whether there's redness and discomfort as well.
Okay, all right. And next question. Sometimes I like to Google my symptoms, but I'm wary of getting unreliable information. Are there any good medical resources that one can find online?
This is a really increasingly common question, and the answer is yes. There are responsible sources of health information online. You've just got to know what clues to look for.
Okay.
So my own personal opinion is I think the internet is a fabulous source of information once you've got a diagnosis. So if you know what your problem is, you can then research all the things you can do to help yourself and to help control that disease, let's say. I don't think it's a very good place for somebody to make their own diagnosis, but I do think researching symptoms that you have can sometimes prompt you or give you the confidence to seek medical advice about it. Now, how do you go about finding responsible sources? Well, one of the things I advise my patients to do, and my friends to do as well, is to look to see if the information that you're reading on the website has been reviewed, and ideally that it's been reviewed by a medically qualified doctor. Also that there's a date of when that review took place, and ideally that would be no more than, let's say, 2 years ago. The other thing to look for is the websites that are associated with charities and organisations. So, for example, in the UK, the NHS website, is responsible. Cancer Research UK, the British Heart Foundation, for example, are two charity websites where the information is going to be very good. The sorts of things that should raise alarm bells is if the website is offering miracle cures, or actually if they're trying to sell you something. Something you can look for is the Health on the Net logo. And basically this means that the website is signed up to and has been certified as providing responsible, accurate and up-to-date information. So you'll see it as HON, usually in the bottom right-hand corner of each page.
Brilliant, that's really good advice, Rob. Thank you so much.
My pleasure as always.
We'll see you again next time.
Yes, you will.
Well, everybody, now it's time to go back to the cow daisies, and now they're going to be showing us how to make a low-carb pizza.
So today we're here to show you one of our favourite recipes from our latest cookbook, and come into the kitchen and we'll show you. This is our latest cookbook, the Diabetes Weight Loss Cookbook, and it's just out now, and we're going to show you a recipe, a classic Italian recipe that we've taken. It's going to be a pizza, delicious pizza, but we're going to make it in a low-carb way, and Giancarlo will tell you why.
Well, I was diabetic, and this is a perfect pizza for me because it's low in carbs and also hasn't got any gluten because I'm also gluten intolerant, and all of that is amazing fun to make. Also, I can eat the pizza, it's very tasty, and really, what else can you ask? You eat the pizza, you have a fun to make it, and you feel absolutely good. Hey, that's a winner. It's an amazing recipe to make.
The first part of the book is a little bit about the science, but really clearly explained why it matters how many carbohydrates you eat to prevent diabetes or to reverse diabetes type 2. And after that, we've got over 100 recipes, which are all from around the world, things that we've collected on our travels, and we've made them all low carb. And it's really the way our family eats now. I've kept a stone of weight off, Giancarlo's kept his 3.5 stone off, and our boys love this way of eating too. It gives you loads of energy. It's just a really good way to eat.
It's an amazing sort of change of life. It's a life-changing sort of situation where you can get accustomed to this sort of eating, and quite frankly, I never felt so better in my entire life. I mean, I'm wide awake, more energy, and the whole thing is incredible, really. And by losing so much weight and feeling so good about myself, I think what a step towards mankind, really.
So now let's start the recipe.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to peel a courgette and grate the courgette while Giancarlo does the rest.
Yes, I've got 150 grams of ground almond, which I put in. Also, I have a pinch of salt, which has to go in. And we also need some Parmigiano, which is here, and I forgot about it. So we got 25 grams of Parmesan, just going in. 1, 2, 3, there we go. And once you put the Parmesan in, you put the courgette.
And the reason I've peeled the courgette, you don't have to at all, you could leave the skin on the courgette, but we want to make it looking as authentic as possible as a pizza base. So if you've got little flecks of dark green in it, it doesn't look so much like the pizza dough, so we like to peel it so that you keep it nice and pale. But up to you, really.
Also, you need 2 eggs, 2 medium eggs. You put them in and you mix it all together, and it will become like a paste, which then we shall put it in a tray and goes into the oven. There you go. 2 eggs, 1 egg, and then the other egg. And you mix all this together, and it'll become like a dough. So you're making a dough, essentially making a dough. Yes, I said, yeah. So there you go, make the dough. Then you put into the tray with some oven paper, and you cook it at 200 degrees centigrade for about 10 minutes.
And this is enough for 2 pizza bases.
So you can see the consistency is not too loose, it's very good to spread, and it's also amazingly good for people like me, which low carb and not gluten whatsoever. So there you go.
So all you have to do is pat this out. And you often find that bases for pizza that are made with vegetables, they use cauliflower. But I've always thought that you can taste the cauliflower. And what I want to taste are the toppings, the lovely salami, there's tomato sauce, the oregano, or anchovies and mozzarella. I don't really want to taste cauliflower in a pizza, so that's why we've gone for courgette in this way.
So the base basically hasn't got too much intensity, and whatever you put on top, it complements the pizza itself. And for the topping, obviously, you can choose whatever you like. That goes in the oven now, and it'll be just 10 minutes, and the base is cooked. We do 10 minutes because later you have to put the pizza back into the oven to be cooked like a proper pizza. So we shall explain in a second how the second part of the pizza is going to be. While the base is cooking in the oven, now we're going to do the toppings for the pizza. So we have tomato, which is a tomato passata. We have some oregano, a little bit of salt, and olive oil. So we will put some olive oil with the tomato passata, and then we put a bit of a pinch of oregano, and a pinch of salt goes into the tomato passata, and you mix it. Also for the toppings, we have a mozzarella, which later shall tear with your hand. You tear it up and you put it on top. Just go like this, nice and easy, and you put it on top of the pizza.
We've got some salami, we've got some olives, it could be anchovies, toppings of your choice, could be prosciutto, rocket, whatever you fancy.
So now we're going to put the pizza base, once we've done the toppings, put the pizza back into the oven at 240 degrees, and all the toppings will melt, will be cooked fantastically, beautifully, amazingly well. So what else can you ask for? You know, an amazing pizza, which is tasty, beautiful, and it doesn't make you ill like me, having gluten intolerance and all that stuff. What a marvelous pizza you created, Katie. It's just genius, really. I think it's genius.
So the base is ready. Right. Now what we need to do is turn the oven up as hot as it'll go. Ours will go to about 240, but just as hot as it can. So we take it out of the tray here, and then we have to turn the tray upside down and put it back into the oven.
What does happen is as you turn the tray upside down, it creates heat at the bottom and at the top, and that forms like having a pizza oven. So really very interesting. It's a nice way of cooking the pizza, and it cooks very fast. So, and now we're gonna do the toppings in the pizza. First obviously, is the tomato, but not too much, not too much tomato. A couple of spoons will be fine.
A lot of people think you need to cook tomato sauce and it has to have onions, etc. It doesn't. It's just very simple. A tin of tomatoes or passata and a few flavourings. That's it. Shall I put some salami on?
Then we put the mozzarella.
Oh, I like olives too on mine. I've just taken the stone out of a few of them as well.
So you can see there's a job for 3, okay? Good kids, that's really brilliant.
Well, it's good with children because they can do their own.
Yeah, it's really nice actually. Okay, that goes back into the oven, and it takes about 5 minutes and that will be ready. So when the mozzarella is all melted, and you'll see, and then later, when it comes out, put some fresh basil on top, and it will be absolutely perfect pizza.
Pizza is ready. Right.
Fantastic. Wow. That's a real pizza, you see. Now, basil.
Yeah, we like to tear the basil on top so that you get a mouthful of basil with the pizza. Yum. Okay.
There we go.
Hungry?
Have a nice pizza.
I will. So this was our recipe for today. Thanks for having us, Chrissy.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Thank you so much to Giancarlo and Katie there. So after the break, we're joined by declutter expert Sally Walford to show us some inexpensive storage solutions. And resident nutritionist Lily Suter will be answering your nutritional questions, including this one. Is there anything nutritionally that can help my psoriasis? Find out what she has to say after this break. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now it's time to answer your nutritional questions with Lily Suter. Welcome to the show, Lily.
Hi.
Are you ready to answer some questions?
Absolutely.
Right, so the first one is there anything nutritionally that can help my psoriasis?
Skin conditions can be quite complex, and I think that when it comes to nutrition, what works for one person may not necessarily work for another. And I think with skin conditions, you should take a holistic approach. So you can look at dietary factors, lifestyle factors, and look at seeing a dermatologist as well for topical treatments. But with nutrition, most of the research, I guess, points towards looking at aspects like vitamin D. So vitamin D, we synthesize in our skin when our skin is exposed to sunlight. And vitamin D plays a role with immune regulation within the body. And psoriasis is actually an autoimmune condition. So having enough sufficient vitamin D within the body is going to be important. And not everybody always has got sufficient vitamin D, especially throughout the winter months when there's not enough sun. Omega-3 fats is another area we could look at. So the current guidelines are to consume 2 portions of fish a week, one of which is oily. And omega-3 fats literally line every single cell membrane within the body, and they help to keep it hydrated, soft, supple, And so it could benefit those with psoriasis. And oily fish is the most potent source of omega-3 fats. So salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines.
That's salmon today, actually.
Amazing, yeah. So that's a perfect source. Yeah. And then there's just some other areas. There's some research linking our gut microbiome, so our gut bacteria, in relation to psoriasis, although we're not quite sure what an optimal microbiome looks like, but having lots of fibre within your diet can help to ensure you have healthy bacteria. And then some key elements, stress can exacerbate psoriasis, as can alcohol, and just lack of sleep.
Okay, all right, brilliant. And the next question, Lily. How can I get my kids to like fruit and veg? They're just not interested. I was like that. I'm complete opposite nowadays. Like,
it's a tricky one. So there's some tactics and strategies that you can do. So making sure that you expose the child to that fruit or veg numerous times could increase their risk at actually picking it up and eating it. Okay. So even if it's a case of putting the fruit and veg on the table 10 times before they even try it, it's worth the shot. Okay. Getting the children involved with cooking, so if you're using vegetables or you're making fruit smoothies, getting them involved so they actually get excited about the cooking process and what they're actually eating. And then children often mimic what we eat. So if you're a parent, then try and sit down with your children at meal times and they may mimic what you're eating as well. So you're sort of leading by example. Okay. And then lastly, there's lots of ways you can hide fruit and veg into foods like smoothies. Very, very easy. You can blend them into soups, chop them into little pieces and add them to casseroles, and they won't actually know.
Oh, that's brilliant. Lily, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again very soon.
Yes.
And everybody, if you'd like more information about Lily, just head over to our website, chrissybshow.tv, scroll down and you'll find her details there. So now it's time to head over to Sally Warford for some inexpensive storage solutions. Welcome to the show, Sally.
Hi, Chrissy. Great to be back.
I love having you on, as you know, and today we're going to be talking about inexpensive storage solutions, actually even free storage solutions.
Yes. Hopefully, you might have some of these objects lying around at home, so, you can utilise and upcycle, which is great.
Brilliant.
So I was talking to was at my brother's house, actually, and it was my nieces that put me onto this idea. And it's also something I think that when you have a lot, if you have children, then they start bringing home a lot of artwork and things like that. And they're the same as birthday cards or cards of some sort. And I think everybody's probably got a stash of cards in a drawer or under a bed somewhere. So basically what we decided to do, and it's really great involving the kids as well, was to get them to do a collage. And at the same time, so we got a really cheap frame, and we found that, and they loved doing this kind of thing.
All right, okay.
So also you're now creating, obviously we're getting rid of this, but we're upcycling, recycling, and also we can put these on the wall.
Wonderful,
and out of the way. So that's a great way of storing something that's of great sentimental value, and also getting to enjoy it.
That's really nice
as well.
I love that.
So and they love doing that with their artwork as well. I mean, you can get obviously bigger or smaller frames depending on what you're doing. So another sort of like cheap thing as well, thank you, is just, tins and stuff. I mean, you get some fantastic tins. This one I love in particular.
I'm still here, sorry, I'm coming, guys.
Yeah, come on.
Just like,
okay.
Sorry.
But going back to tins and jars, again, don't be misled by the shape or the size of the jar. You can utilise mini jars for, I've got fuses in here. That's easy to find in my DIY kit.
That's it.
So, and here again, lovely tins that you can find. Don't throw them away. This one I think has got pens in.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Like the highlighting fan, so tin. But also, again, we can be utilising it, and you can see what you've got, or what you've got.
Yeah. You can put a little label on there anyway.
You can put labels. Again, with jars, don't forget we can do pens in bigger jars as well. And we can use for makeup brushes.
Flower pots.
Flower pots, I mean,
terrariums.
The possibilities are endless, aren't they? So there we go.
That's really nice. Get these across.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. So this is a really cheap way if you have cupboards that don't have enough height, enough shelves.
Yeah.
So, and these again, really, really cheap to buy. You don't have to have this metal one. They have all kinds, all shapes, all sizes that are available at any really high street or even little shops, you know. And these are great. I use this in my home for my saucepans and pans and things like that. Good. So I just sort of like demonstrate that. So you're creating another shelf, basically.
That's really good. I could do with a few of these actually.
Yeah, they're great. And
what are they called?
These are shelf dividers.
Shelf
dividers, yeah. Or storage dividers as well, I think that's another word. And also, if you have a lot of pots and pans, if you're, you know, big on cooking, I've had several clients, there seems to always be a problem with saucepan lids. They're just everywhere. They just get, you know. So I know I've bought up self-adhesive hooks many times, but they are one of my favourite solutions.
We should do 101 ways to use this.
Any hooks. So yeah, but these are fantastic. So you stick these actually onto the inside of your kitchen cupboard. And so and you do them on a diagonal. So I don't know if you could see that. Yeah. So that would actually be on the inside of your cupboard.
Brilliant. Wow, so clever.
So you're saving space as well. And it's cheap.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just put these down. Thank you. That's great. There we go. Right.
Da 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 da. The fitted sheet.
Now you might be wondering why I've brought this in on this subject, but there's a good reason for it, because I know that a lot of people don't have a lot of time to fold sheets or, you know, that kind of thing. But how many times or how long does it take you to find the right sheet? Yeah. And, you know, by the time you've probably looked for that in a frantic moment with a sheet like this, you might as well have spent the time folding it.
Yeah, probably.
So I wanted to show you a really good way of folding a sheet.
Please do.
So here we go. So the most important thing is just to remember to grab it lengthways. Okay, and it's inside out. And again, with the fitted sheets, these are quite tricky because of the elastic.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna literally hold it arm to arm, and I'm gonna fold it in half, and then I'm just gonna hook it under. So I'll just show you that. So you can see that we've got the other ones at the bottom. So then you're just gonna grab the other elastic bit, and we're gonna hook it under.
Wow.
Okay, and then the same with the other one. And just hook it under. So we've now got all the four corners up here, and we're going to just pull this bit out. So I'm going to swap hands, and I pull that to there.
Oh, so clever.
Okay, so we've kind of like got an L shape, really, if you can see. Then, once you've done that, you just take it to a surface, and we're just going to fold it 3 times. So 1, 2, and then we're going to fold it again. 3, and then the last one, 4.
So this is the secret that people have been the problem that people have been trying to solve for years and years, exclusively here on the Chrissy B Show, how to fold a fitted sheet properly, and it looks amazing.
Yes.
I love it.
Yay.
So you got more though, haven't you?
But, what I wanted to say was, here we go. So particularly with large families, or also if you have different rooms with different duvet sets, etc., etc. This is another way to make sure that you've got all of your collection together. And this again is because you've bought the duvet set. This is free.
Yeah.
So, and we just place all of the duvet set inside.
Amazing.
So this is cheap storage. So not only are we saving on space, we're saving time, and we're saving
I'm so going to do this as soon as I go home. I'm so going to do this because I love this idea.
So there you go.
That's amazing.
The other one I've got is, just because it's spring and I'm hoping, you know, we're all thinking about holidays, etc. So I just thought, cheap, easy storage and something to take away with you is a washing bag. So This is great, especially if you've got kids with toys, etc.
Oh, yes,
So
true.
yeah, the washing bags, and these are really cheap. They're great for putting kids' toys in. They're great for putting your bikinis in. You can get different smaller ones for
I
your
use the
socks and
smaller
pants.
ones,
And great for packing. Brilliant for packing. Because it contains it all.
And they're not heavy like those plastic things that you get to send for travel. It's brilliant.
And then you can use them for your dirty laundry bag as well.
That's true.
So yeah, multi-use. Get in that case. That's it, done.
Sally, thank you so much.
You're
I can't wait to go home now.
Yes, the fitted sheet, yes.
Fitted sheets, dreaded fitted sheets. Not anymore. Thank you, Sally, and we'll see you again very soon.
Thanks very much.
Okay, everybody, so now it's time to go to my final thought of the day. Well, everyone, we've almost reached the end of today's program. I'd like to thank all of my guests today, and I'm sure that you've gained some really great tips and advice from each one of them. So what I'd like to home in on actually is something that Soli was mentioning, my real life story guest, at the start of the show, where her son with ADHD has been misunderstood in the past. And she spoke about situations where, children aren't understood because they have this condition and they're thought to be naughty, that they're troublemakers, and they're not given the support that they need. So it's quite sad if you think about it, because those children, and even adults actually, get misunderstood, they get judged a lot. And it's not a nice situation to be in, when all it takes is a bit of understanding and a few adjustments that can be made in schools and at home as well. And this is something that we in general as human beings, we have to be careful of, because we are so easy to point our fingers and judge other people. If they don't behave in a way that we deem normal, then there's something wrong. Say, for example, you have a teenager at home, or even actually anyone in your family, and you see that they're kind of behaving in a way that you don't find acceptable, or it's not, for you it's not normal, or it could come across as a bit rude. The first thing normally that us humans do, we tend to get annoyed, and we tend to kind of, why is that person acting that way, or why is this child speaking to me this way? And actually there could be an underlying reason why that's going on. If someone's depressed, if someone is going through really serious issues, their behavior is not going to be the way it usually is. Because think about yourself, when you're worried about something, when you're stressed out about something, do you act calm all the time? Don't you snap at people sometimes? Don't you say things sometimes that you wish you hadn't? Your behavior can be influenced by what you're going through. So if you see that, for example, your child or someone that's close to you all of a sudden starts kind of displaying behavior that you're finding a bit strange, instead of jumping down their throat or having a go or getting wound up and arguing back, try and see if there's something going on. Because the thing is, if you already isolate that person and start sort of arguing with them, they're not going to speak, they're not going to want to speak to you about something that they could be going through. So always, if you see that situation, I know it's hard, I know, like, humanly speaking, we kind of want to defend ourselves and you treated me badly and things like that, but we have to find out what's really going on. You know that person already, you know that's not their normal way of behaving, so why don't you sit down with them and ask them, is there anything wrong? Did you have a bad day? Or it could be something deeper, it could be something that they've been going through for a long time and they've just reached breaking point and they haven't spoken to anyone. You could be the first person they could open up to. So just bear that in mind if you do sort of see something that maybe is not normal for that person. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, please do get in touch with us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet or Instagram us @ChrissyBShow, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you'd like to know more about my personal journey with my mental health, you can visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time.